you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in a business. Not because they want to do it, just because they heard it pays. And who the fuck wants to be poor knowing that's how we've been raised? Society is getting heavy, I can feel the weight. The pressure of success is like 100 million pounds of shit.
How you guys doing today? It's Anthony Gangi. Welcome to another episode of Tier Talk. Today we got a great episode. Remember, guys, a couple of weeks ago we did an episode, still up on the YouTube channel, obviously, about mistakes you don't want to make your rookie year. So kind of as an adverse to that, we want to touch on another episode that deals with the relationship between senior staff and rookie COs. And actually this topic comes from Russ Hamilton. So I'm going to have Russ introduce himself, and he's going to go ahead and introduce the topic, because I don't want to twist it around, because this is something that Russ has been working on. He's even going to give us an acronym that's going to make it easy for us to learn. So Russ, my man, what's up, brother?
Hey, how's it going, Anthony? For those of you that don't know me, I'm Russ Hamilton. I have a 27-year career with California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. Started at San Quentin way back in '89, eventually promoted to sergeant. And then I went into a juvenile facility after I'd actually already retired, did a few more years there. So I have almost 30 years aggregate. And so anyway, what I wanted to do with this particular subject is I want to talk about bringing the young pups along, you know, the new boots, the rookies. And, you know, back when I was a kid, back in my teens and so forth, I raised hunting hounds. And one of the things about raising hunting hounds is you always got to bring those young pups along. And those young pups, they'll go hang out with the older dogs, right? And some of your older dogs are trash and they're no good. And some of your older dogs are really great, and they really know how to bring those young pups along. And so that was just kind of a little analogy that I wanted to use. We have to reach out and bring these youngsters along. And it can't just be an afterthought. It just can't be where, you know, they're going to get exposed to stuff. And so that's good enough. We have to make a conscious effort to bring them along. We have to make a conscious effort to think about what we're telling them, about what we're instilling in them. And so to that end, I decided to develop a little acronym. And it's really just stuff that I've always taught the youngsters. And this particular acronym is SPIKER. And so we're going to go through that, and Anthony's going to throw in maybe a couple of stories and odds and ends. But if you have an acronym to anchor yourself, you won't forget about what you should be telling these guys, about what you should be doing to bring them up through the ranks. Well, not through the ranks necessarily, but bring them up so that they are a well-seasoned, well-experienced correctional officer, so they can come from where they start out, that rookie sensation that you've got going, all the way to where they finally become that master journeyman officer.
Okay, so I want to mention this too. So when we go to the sponsor, right, see if you guys can figure out what the acronym means. So see if you can guess what the S is, what the P is, what the I is, what the K is, what the E is, and what the R is. I'm looking forward to seeing how you break it down, Russ, but obviously I'm not going to, I know the answer. You sent it to me. So I don't want to go ahead and give it away, but see if you guys could guess it. And before we go to commercial, before we go to sponsor, I want to mention one thing though, real quick. Guys, when you enter this field as a rookie, so this is going to you as a rookie. This is your career until you're somewhere else. Live in the moment, live in the now. If you want to learn, be respectful to the people that are taking their time out to teach you. They don't care about where you're at tomorrow. What they care about is you give them respect in the moment, and there's so much that you can learn. But when you come in, it's not about where you're going to be tomorrow. Worry about where you are right now, because in the end, I know this may sound sad. We want to wish you the best. I'm sure if you want to be a street cop, that's fine. But you're not a street cop now. You are working in corrections, and this is your time to be an apprentice. It's not your time to show off. It's none of that. It's your time right now to be an apprentice, and like Russ said, develop the skills so one day you can progress towards that master level. And there's a lot to offer from our experienced staff. So this is definitely going to be a very interesting episode. I'm looking forward to seeing how Russ breaks this down and see if I can elaborate on some of these. But this is Russ's idea, And Russ, and obviously, thank you, Russ. I'm really interested in hearing where you got to go with this. Now, we haven't discussed where this is going to go, so I'm gonna sit back a little today and learn. Now, guys, if you haven't, the show Tear Talks for you, brave men and women that work in corrections. So please subscribe, interact, engage, comment, hit that bell. The bell's going to notify you every time I post a video. We're going to go to our sponsor. We come back. We're going to break down the word spiker. But before we come back, guys, start guessing what that means. I want to see that in the comments. All right, stand by.
I wanted to attend a university that had an intelligence program. I wanted to look at problems different. I wanted to increase my critical thinking abilities. AMU offered those avenues to expand. Obtaining your degree as an adult, you're actually paying yourself and investing in yourself. You can't put a dollar on it, it's priceless. It's something that can never be taken away from you.
American Military University. Learn from the leader.
Guys, inmate manipulation is a course that is highly needed. It's the process that's so slow moving and subtle that you don't realize it's happening. When inmates choose to manipulate, they manipulate our need to react. Situational awareness and insight is going to save your career. It's going to save you from doing foolish things. Listen to your gut. So the more insight we have, the more we can recognize what isn't so overt, and we can correct our behavior before we fall into a trap that we can't get out of. If you allow an inmate to pull you out of your prescribed role, you are opening up a door for a host of problems.
Inmate manipulation, the psychology behind inmate manipulation. Available now. Link in description. All right, and we're back. Okay, guys, so as I mentioned, this is going to be Russ's thing. He took time out to work on this great acronym called SPIKER. But again, just to retouch, if you're a rookie watching this, embrace what's coming your way. This is great knowledge for you to have, but also for the senior staff, if you really want to motivate the rookies, if you really want to push them into that next level, that preparation, because this is a career. This is, to me, this is a career. This is something that's noble enough to stand on its own. You want to get these people to that next level. I think Russ has something great to offer and a great way to remember it. So, Russ, let's go over each letter. So, go ahead, Russ. Spiker. First letter is S.
Is S. You know, as you're out there, as you're training these young pups, as you're molding these individuals to become, you know, the seasoned, well-rounded professionals that you want them to be, there's probably nothing more important that you do on a day-to-day basis than search. And searching, of course, is everything from, you know, a pat-down body search to a strip search, to an area search, to a cell search, to a dorm search, whatever that entails, because we're developing these guys to detect ahead of time very dangerous things, whether that's drugs or whether that's weapons, whether that's cell phones that can be used in all kinds of nefarious ways. So bring these people along. This isn't something that you just go in and it's just rote and, oh, we're patting 100 guys down because they're coming from vocations back onto the yard and stuff. Really make this a learning experience. Get in there, talk to them about why you're doing the things that you're doing, how you're conducting that clothes body search, how you're conducting that strip search. Talk about the ways that you've maybe been defeated before, or about how some inmate managed to get something onto the yard. Let's really go over these. These are basics, and they sound like basics, but really these are things that if you're not paying attention to can get people killed. So let's really hit that as part of Corrections 101 and really give them a firm foundation with regards to searches and searching.
And guys, I also want to add on that, Russ, I think that's great advice. Obviously, searches are a very good preventive measure. It's something that we need, but I also want to add on something. You know, some facilities may not be as active, and sometimes you're not finding stuff every day, and sometimes you kind of just go through the motions as a senior officer because, you know, again, I haven't found things in a while, so I'm just kind of going through the motions. Please don't do that. Treat every search as if it's a brand new search that has the potential to discover a lot of contraband, because if you're training somebody, that person that you're training, that rookie officer needs to see you going at it 110%. This is the time for you if ever. I mean, you always should go 110%, but please, this is the time where you go 110%. You know, you got experience. You know how inmates think at this point. You know how they hide things. I mean, think about it, guys. This is inmates evolve every time we find something. They think of something new. So think of all the experience that you've collected passively that you can now pass on to that rookie. So if you have that rookie next to you, please give it 110%. You should always give it 110%, but definitely if you have that rookie next to you, show them the ropes. Sit down and be honest with you. Enjoy the search with them. Break it down. And if you're a rookie, listen. Listen to everything that person says, because not only are they going to show you where it is, the more important thing, what makes you remember, is they're going to show you why it's there. So I think that's phenomenal advice, Russ, which brings us to the letter P.
All right, guys. So the letter P, this is one that really gets me because I see so often staff being lazy in what they're doing with regards to their physical skills. That P is for those physical skills. When you're out there and you're talking to these new boots, to these young skulls full of mush, we want to be on top of our game with regards to what our physical skills are. And what I mean is this: when you're out there and you're doing cuffing operations, you're applying handcuffs, whether it's to one inmate or 100 inmates because you just had an incident, you should be showing these youngsters the right way to do it, the safe way to do it. I see so many times where guys just kind of, they're cuffing up a guy who's not really resistant or whatever, and they just kind of smack the cuffs onto him. They kind of give a cursory check as to, applying the double lock. They're not making sure that his hands are apart and away and face and away from each other. They're not telling the rookie why they're doing it that way, so that they can apply pressure so they can get that guy under control. When you're going in there and you have some compliance and you're having that guy interlace his fingers on his head or whatever, are you showing him how to, pinch those fingers together so he can't get out? Or are you just going through the motions because this is the 95,000th guy that you've applied handcuffs on? No, take yourself back to school, put yourself in the place of that rookie, so that you can explain the way that it should be done, and more than that, why you're doing it. I've seen cuffing go wrong a lot of times because we get away from the basics, because we get complacent. So that's just one of the physical skills. There's also escorting. How do you escort a guy? What about when you're putting the guy in and out of a cell? What about when you're putting them in and out of a holding cell? Are you showing these rookies how to prop your foot up against there so that someone doesn't come out, so they don't kick that door, so they don't smash that door jamb into your face? Start really taking them through these things where all these physical skills really count. And that includes defensive tactics and everything else. Bring them up. This is knowledge check time. This is time for you to show off the knowledge that you have. This is the time for you to kind of take yourself back and go, you know what? I kind of been doing it wrong. Maybe I really need to go back and rethink it. Maybe it's time for you, no matter how many years you have into, pull that FTO aside and say, hey, you know what? I need a brush up, because we need to pass on good skills to these particular individuals, not, half-ass and, hey, this is kind of the way you do it. There's no room for that. So P is for physical skills.
Yeah, and the key, I like what Russ said again, we revisit it again, is the why is so important. It goes beyond just the physical skill. It's why it's got to be done. And I think for me, anytime someone said a why, it stayed with me, because the why could carry a lot of weight. Like Russ said, if you don't do it this way, this is what the inmate can do, and this is what the end result. You're not going to forget that, because again, that's your life. That's your life of your partner, or your peers on the job. So Russ, again, spot on. Now, again, of course, there's a lot of parts of this job that require different skills, but there's a generality that we're trying to tell you. Break it down and give them the why it has to be done that way. And I think that was spot on, Russ, and thank you. Okay, Russ, I. What's I stand for?
Okay, this is another one of those that I had a bad experience with back at the very beginning of my career, and this is about inclusiveness. I is for inclusiveness. There's always been this thing in corrections where it's kind of like sink or swim. We don't even talk to that individual until he's got 2 or 3 or 5 years in, whatever it is. But that's not the way it should be. That's not the way I would expect today's professional correctional officer to conduct themselves. We need to be inclusive. We need to bring that individual into our fold. We need to be breaking bread with him. We need to be talking to him. We need to be, you know, searching his head and his gut for what he's about, for the things that he needs. He knows the skills that he lacks. And so make that individual part of the family where they're not afraid to open up, where they're not afraid to come to you for advice, because just putting someone in a position where they just kind of have to get by, they're going to develop bad habits. They're not going to seek you out, and they're not going to do a very good job for a long time, assuming that they have that kind of capacity to learn for themselves. A lot of people don't have that ability to learn for themselves. So let's get away from that. My very first day that I showed up 45 minutes early, and that officer that I was relieving on death row at San Quentin, and he just threw everything into a pile and walked away and wouldn't even talk to me. So what does that tell you? No, that's the old way. There are better ways to do things now. Let's not get involved in that stupidity of the past. If that person doesn't eventually turn out, then it's not our fault. But if they don't turn out because we've, excluded them, then that some of that belongs to us. So I for inclusivity. It's very important.
You know, actually, I shared a story about this a while back, one of my videos. I'm going to reiterate it here because it is very important. Listen, Russ is hitting this right on the spot. When we come in this profession as rookies, I'm not expecting to be automatically trusted by senior staff. I know it's something that has to be earned. But from the other perspective, though, from senior staff, that doesn't mean you push that rookie away, because you do have to make the effort to, take some time, get to know this individual, because initial impressions stay with somebody forever. So if you have a rookie coming into the profession, they're looking to at least belong. That's the key. They're looking for a connection, something that says, hey, I got you and you got me, especially in this profession where you can come in and you're lost. Remember, me and Russ have discussed this on shows before. We don't believe in the sink or swim. We don't believe any of that. We believe in embracing that rookie and showing them the ropes. I also push a lot on the field training officer. The field training officer should work their ass off to get the right people there to train that rookie, to welcome that rookie, and not see the rookie as a burden to training. No, that's your job. Share your experience. Do what you got to do to cultivate that rookie. I think that's the word that me and Russ were trying to look for before. To cultivate the rookie into becoming where you would want them to be. Because don't forget, the better trained that rookie is, the safer your job becomes. And if there's an issue with senior staff that's just kind of excluding or pushing that officer away, then as a field training officer, step up. Go to the senior staff and have a chat with them. Because I'm going to share a story, and I shared it before on the channel, but just in case you never saw the video, that happened to me in my first couple of days. But I had an officer that was awesome. My FTO was awesome. I literally had a guy that when I went to go sit at the table, he says, I don't sit with rookies. I actually thought it was a joke because it was so blunt. But he meant it. He actually got up and sat at another table. And I'm sitting there like, well, I guess this wasn't a joke. That is a horrible feeling, but I got lucky because it was balanced by a good CO who went over and talked to that individual. Now, had I not had that good CO, think about how my initial impression is about this profession, that I'm an outsider and I'll never be accepted. So why even try? So, Russ, I think that's something that's very important. But again, I really push that onto the senior officers because the rookie should come in with that want to belong. And we discussed this before, but that field training officer has to do what they can to make sure the environment welcomes that rookie. The last thing we want is to push them away. And again, we did an episode about rookies' perspective. So we know rookies need to humble themselves. We know all that. But having said that, if you have a rookie that's coming in to learn, coming in to embrace the profession, the last thing you want to do is have a senior officer's arrogance push that away. Sorry, guys. We all were rookies once. I think that's great, Russ. Hey, Russ, letter K. We're moving through this, Russ. Letter K.
That's right, Anthony. So letter K. This one is a big, huge deal. And it's really simple, though, because K is just knowledge, all right? We need to take the knowledge that we have and we have to impart it to these rookies. And, everything that we do You know, whether it's looking at tattoos, whether it's, you know, discovering contraband, whether it's looking at, you know, gestures and body language on these guys. We need to take that and we need to put it up there so that these rookies can digest it, learn it, and capitalize on it. All right? Because a lot of the things that I know about body language and detecting things that people are doing and stuff, they're of no good once I pass out through retirement, right? I'm of no more use unless I can pass it on. So I need to be able to take that rookie and pass these things on, whether it's about gangs, whether it's about gang tattoos, whether it's about how gangs you know, act within certain parameters, who those particular shot callers are on your yard, whether it's about you know, how contraband comes into the institution, about how they pay for things on the inside. There's a million things that I could identify and mention right now that's all part of this huge body of knowledge that I have and that all of you have. But it's no good unless we pass it on and unless we show these individuals what they can do with that knowledge. You know, I had a situation way back in my career where I was around someone who wanted to keep and manage that knowledge and not let any of it out. And, you know, I was trying to pay for my own way because the institution I was at wasn't going to pay for more than 2 or 3 people to go to California Gang Task Force. So I wanted to be involved. And this guy, he made sure that no one else got to go to those because he was in charge of that. And he cut people off and he managed that knowledge for himself. And he wasn't trying to do anything to train anyone else with regard to gangs. And he was that individual that was supposed to be doing that. So knowledge, pass it on. It's important. If you don't do it, it's going to pass away and it's not going to be parted out to the individuals who are going to need it that are coming up through those ranks.
And Russ, that's sort of the birth of this channel. We hold on to knowledge because, again, if we didn't have a channel like this, outlet like this, I don't know if Russ would be still giving out the rich experience that he has. It could have been lost, and God forbid we lost it, because I'm sure right now a lot of the advice that Russ gave or gives has saved lives. I'm sure the stuff we do on this channel has saved lives. I just want to add something here too. I think that I think Russ would agree. The knowledge we're talking about is experience. So that's to kind of balance what you're taught at the academy. Now, again, we touched on the rookie perspective, but I have another perspective I want to give here. If you're in training and you're a training officer, and I know training evolves, and sometimes we have a habit of not realizing this, maybe it's implied, but as training evolves, we wind up bad-mouthing the senior officers by saying they never took up training like this. They never did stuff like this that we're doing now. And what you don't realize is that winds up giving the rookie a big head to the point where they come back to the facility and they feel that they know more than the senior staff. Do not allow that to happen in training. Even if you're going to up the knowledge, balance it with the importance of, you know, blending that with the experience, because the experience is key here. There's no way anybody could ever tell me that 6 months of an academy is better than 24 years or 25 years, or in Russ's case, almost 30 years of walking a tier. So be careful how you set those rookies up the moment they come in. If you make it in any way that the training that they're getting now makes the older COs inferior, look what they're going to do. They're going to come in and be resistant to what the senior officers have to provide. And I think that is a tremendous discredit for those that are in the profession. It's frustrating. And I've dealt with that, guys. Trust me. Okay, Russ, we're on letter E. What do you got?
All right, moving right through them here. This one's really important because sometimes you just don't think about trying to impart the experience part. But E is less about experience and more about what I call exposing these youngsters to situations and incidents. Sometimes you're going to have a chance to take these guys along in situations that are going to be a little bit dicey. You don't necessarily want to have to rely on them, so you should always have more than enough staff. but there's a number of times where I've, gone down the yard and I've said, hey, look, we're going to go in. This guy, he's going to be in one of these dorms or one of these cells. And, he's already been validated as a gang member. And now we're going to remove him from the population because it's his turn to go under investigation. So we have to move him over to SEG. There's a chance he might fight us. And so I bring that individual along, tell them what I expect from them, and boom, this is that chance for their gut check time to really come into play, for them to know that, hey, this is a really important mission that we're on. And maybe it's something like that. Maybe it's something a little more bland, but a lot more dangerous, where, hey, you know what? I have a dorm full of drunk guys. And so we're going to go in there. We're going to conduct a raid. We're going to have them all get down on their faces. We're going to conduct cuffing operations. And so I'm going to need you to help me with that. Bring them along on these things. Start putting them in these positions where they're under pressure and they're expected to perform. Because if we just always leave them behind because we don't know what they're made of, they're never going to have a chance to mature and see what happens when these incidents start to take place.
Russ, I actually had a sergeant that was exactly what you're saying, is that if it was slow, he would give us tons of what ifs and really kind of rapid fire. He tried to do the best he could to give us live, scenarios, but unfortunately you can't always get that. Sometimes it gets carried away and people get hurt, sad to say, but he's definitely giving us stuff that we could really think on our feet to try to see if we're able to adapt and adjust, which obviously is a key in this profession. And even when it comes to the training, you have to try to treat it as real as possible. I'd also like to add that if we could involve other departments into that training that are part of that. I mean, we were talking on an episode the other day about cell extractions or medical emergencies. And sometimes we realize that when we do the scenarios and it's live action, medical won't even be there, and then medical, if they're even doing it, they'll do it by themselves. I think we should start doing them with all active parties involved. But Russ, I agree with you 100%. The exposures to incidences, and if it's a slower moving facility or things aren't happening, if you can get some live based training, or even if it's just let's ask some questions, keep people on their toes, something that shows that, we want to break away from any chance that they could be complacent. That's the big thing, especially coming into this profession. You need them to learn, you need them to be active. And this is basically what sets the standard for the rest of their career. So I think that's great advice. Exposure to incidences, or again, if it's a slow moving facility, there's still ways you can complement that to still get them to cultivate them to where they need to be. Now, Russ, this is very important. Again, I actually did a few videos on this, I believe, with Russ before. So we're going to kind of go through this real quick. Report writing. Oh, sorry. Damn it. I had it in my head. I secretly revealed the letter R because that's how important it is to me. And that's how important it is to Russ. So I apologize. Please, guys, you did not hear what I said. Let Russ get the grand entrance on that one. Russ, what's the letter R stand for?
The letter R? No, I just made that up. No, it is report writing. All right. Report writing is the thing that so many of us tend to overlook because we don't want to do the things necessary to make us good or even great report writers. If you want to be a good or a great report writer, it's more than just, rehearsing how you tell about how the incident unfolds. It's having a huge background of knowledge of the things that formed us, that inform us about how to write effectively. If you don't know how the penal code works, if you don't know how case law works, if you don't know how policy and procedure works, you can't be a good report writer because you have to have all of those things in mind in order to write a good report. When I talk about the penal code, you damn well better know what the elements of a particular crime are if you're going to be charging an individual with that crime. It's pretty simple. When an inmate takes and they stab another inmate, what are you charging them with? Well, battery with a deadly weapon, right? Well, what are the elements of that crime? Well, the elements are, first of all, he had to be in possession of that weapon, right? So you damn well better say which hand it was in, right? How he was using. Was he striking overhand? Was he striking underhand? Was he slashing back and forth? All of these things are elements of the crime that go to show that the crime actually did take place. Also, you better know about how to record your evidence when you're report writing, describing each and every photograph that you took, describing each and every piece of evidence that you collected. It's a lot more, obviously, than we can go into right here and right now. But if your report writing game is weak, you better start stepping it up, because you're doing a disservice to the rookies if you can't be there by their side and show them how to establish that that crime took place, how to establish that this individual is guilty. You're leaving them to their own devices, and you're not doing the best that you possibly can in order to give them that skill to be able to have a successful disciplinary or a successful prosecution.
Right, and guys, we covered this topic. We covered this topic multiple times on the Tier Talk YouTube channel. So if you look up report writing Tier Talk, you're going to find that we've devoted lengthy videos to this, guys. Now, remember, we can't cover everything in that much detail, but this is just a reminder. Maybe if you're interested a little bit more, then you can go ahead and check out the videos. I believe Russ has one on that too, but I will give some brief advice. There's no need to add the why, just the what, the where, the when, even the how, but never the why. But I want to add one more thing that just something worthy of covering real quick. Remember, these reports have to be taken seriously because they can go anywhere. Once you write something, they could be used years later in a high-level court case. You never know. So how you come off in that report has to be professional. Take time, look at it, re-look at it, have people look at it to make sure it sounds correct, but make the effort, because the people that interpret it later on, they're not going to make the effort. Sometimes a lot of officers start seeing their charges drop and they don't understand. And sometimes we as managers want to say, well, read your report. You want to blame everybody else for the charges that are dropping, because sometimes, don't forget, you do have some lenient people, and I'm not arguing that. Sometimes there are people that may not understand what we do, and sometimes we have a right to be frustrated. But there are some times where there are some charges that should stick. But then when you look at the report, you can see that the effort just wasn't there. The name is wrong. The number's wrong. The location's wrong. The time's wrong. The date's wrong. It just shows that you didn't take enough effort. That's the key into doing that report. And now you're expecting other people to look at that report and do the effort for you. That's not going to happen. The moment something's ambiguous, the moment it's challenged, they're going to be like, you know what? Let the inmate beat the charge, because at any point, the person that's looking at that can also be challenged. So make the effort. Do the due diligence. This is your name, and you have to be seen credible. And a big part of our credibility comes from what we write down. It literally does. You write a good report, management sees it, people see it, and it builds credibility. Trust and believe. Good reports build credibility. Hey, Russ, you have anything in closing that you would like to say?
Just want to say this, tag one more thing onto that report writing, and that is, if you're going to hold a crucifixion, you got to bring the nails. And that's what good report writing is all about in this business. You got to bring the nails. You have to give that disciplinary officer or that district attorney enough ammunition, enough nails to make it where it sticks 100%. Other than that, I hope everyone remembers that spiker. If you think about it, when you're with your rookies out there, what can I do today? Can I do knowledge? Can I do searching? Maybe I can expose this guy to a potential situation. Maybe we're going to go in, maybe we're going to do a dorm raid or a cell raid or something like that. Think about that term spiker. Think about how you can introduce these rookies to all of these different situations, to developing all of these physical skills. And I think we'll do a better job about or just, make the whole institution safer by imparting these necessary things to these rookies.
All right, guys, and just a reminder, spiker, S for searches, P for physical skill, I for inclusion, K for knowledge, E to exposure to incidents, R for report writing. This is just the beginning of the many acronyms Russ will come across, but I think these are 6 specific bullets that are something that you should definitely know as a rookie, but something that we should be willing to pass off immediately to those willing to learn. Again, willing to learn with someone who wants to teach. Beautiful dance, guys. And I leave that up to the FTO to create that culture. FTO, that is your responsibility to create that culture, to bring in people that want to learn and have them next to people that want to teach. As always, guys, the show is Tier Talk. If you haven't, please subscribe, interact, engage, comment, hit that bell. That bell's going to notify you every time I post a video. And please stay safe. Don't forget, guys, to check out the Tier Talk podcast. It airs every Friday at 1 p.m. We have a show coming on this week about transgender inmates. Oof, it's going to be a tough one. As always, guys, stay safe.